Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us from worldwide. I'm Sterling. It's great to have you back on the channel. This show is being recorded for Sunday, September 8th, 2024. Show is actually being recorded on Saturday, September 7th, and then posted live to the channel at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time on Sunday, September 8th. All these shows are provided for entertainment purposes only. If you're new to the channel, I communicate real time with my guides, angels, extended spiritual counsel, ETs, famous people from history, so for entertainment purposes only. Also, we always get asked for those of you to reach me. Go to sterlingpsychicmedium.com, look for the book a session tab. Very easy from there. I think there are a few dates or slots left over in the end of 2024 and now the beginning of stages of 2025. And we also have a platinum membership program. We do live streams on Fridays for members. You can find that link to join on the front page of YouTube, as well as our website, sterlingpsychicmedium.com. So that's all the housekeeping for today. We do gather questions for these shows from our community board, community tab on the YouTube site. I think this week there were 386 questions. So thanks very much for all the kind support of the channel and all the wonderful articulate questions. My wife does go through them, screens down to some, quantity here that we can address easily on the show in terms of the time constraints we have here for an hour. I think right now today there's 66 questions, so I'll look at those with you real time here and provide those answers. So without any further delay, let's get going on today's show. 66. Hello, Sterling. Why on earth did Judge Juan Marchand delay 45 sentencing until after the election? I get very directly he wanted to avoid any conflicts or the appearance of any conflict that his actions would have influenced the election. So they want to steer clear of that. 65. Hello, Sterling and team. Concerning Israel and their protests, will Netanyahu sign a ceasefire agreement bringing the remaining hostages home to their families? I see that the ceasefire agreement is going to go hand in hand with an agreement over what's called the Philadelphia corridor. That's where a lot of terrorists come into that Gaza area, that area that where a lot of the terrorists were having actions in the Gaza Strip. And so it looks like the Philadelphia corridor is going to be an important part of that ceasefire agreement. It looks like Qatar is helping with that. But it looks like all that has to take place before all this settles out and then the hostages are brought back. Now, what it looks like to me is when I did a read on this all a year ago, my team was saying that this conflict would be in effect from October of last year through October of this year. So right now we're in September. And then after we get through kind of the October timeframe, then everyone start around kind of negotiating a two-state solution for another year after that. So a lot of information on this, but I do see that Netanyahu is going to try to get the Philadelphia corridor secure. And then that does run between like Egypt and the Gaza Strip. A lot of terrorists have used that over many, many decades to come into that area. So Israel believes they need control. 64. Hello, Sterling. We just learned that four well-known right-wing influencers have been paid by Russia to spread disinformation and propaganda. Are there more than that involved? What consequences will these influencers face? I get there's well over 1,000 influencers that are being paid off by Russia. So it's much more than like the four that were just identified. And unfortunately, I don't see a lot of consequences coming for these other, let's say, other 1,000, because a lot of this money is being shuttled back and forth through offshore accounts that are being hidden by shell companies. And so it's going to be very difficult to track that down. So unfortunately, it's a part of our society that is really, troublesome. So I don't see a lot of people being brought to justice, unfortunately. This is a very, very tangled web that's been built around this influencer campaign being driven by Russia. 63. Hi, Sterling. Curious if light workers typically come down to earth and work in pairs or groups, like a married couple, good friends, siblings, etc., or if they tend to work more solo individually. There's no single way that light workers come down here to work. They're as unique as the population is. So everybody's role as a light worker, the light workers are here. There are millions of them, have very unique ways they interact with humanity and the population. Some are in groups. The vast majority are working in a singular way. So you wouldn't always know that there's some sort of a group force at work there. But a lot of unique circumstances where light workers, they could be a single person working in a hospital or working in a company or working in some other senior living facility or out in public in some way, don't always work in groups. 62. Thank you, Sterling and team. Louis Elizondo's recently published book on UAPs, Imminent, shared a theory proposed by Harold Puthoff to explain the way UAPs fly and how they present in the atmosphere and how they've affected some individuals who have encountered them. The idea is that warp drives exist and the crafts generate and operate within a bubble that insulates them from local space time environment. This would allow for instantaneous acceleration, hypersonic velocity, low visibility, transmedium travel, and anti-gravity. Multiple aircrafts or crafts traveling with overlapping bubbles could explain the various shapes of UAPs, tic-tacs, etc., with smaller crafts breaking off. Triangular and large vehicles. How close might this explanation be to the truth? I don't get so warp drive, and I talk to ET groups about this all the time. The core is anti-gravity propulsion systems, and they do create what's called a plasma effect. That's a different state of matter, but they create a plasma effect around the ships. It does enable the ships to travel faster than the speed of light. So when you combine that with being able to travel through portals, and there are many portals around the universe, and many even on Earth here, like at Skinwalker Ranch. It's that combination of technology that makes all this travel possible. So the fact they call it out warp drives is a combination of technologies that help them achieve faster than the speed of light travel, what looks like a plasma effect around the ship. And then you like in portals to move through dimensions and kind of circumvent large light years of time and reduce that into very small, manageable ways that you then travel around the universe. So a little bit off, I guess, from the explanation that was being proposed there. 61, good morning, Sterling. I live in Utah, and the LDS Church is now supporting the Democratic ticket for president. Utah is notorious for always being Republican. You have spoken in the past about the state turning blue, but not for a while. Since the timeline sped up by 8 years, what does Utah have of supporting a more Democratic ticket across the state and turning either purple or blue? I see a more moderate change, so I'll call it purple, but it does not look like overall they'll be voting Democratic in the presidential election, like the presidential ticket. So it looks like they're going to be more purple across the board, if that makes sense. 60. Hello, Sterling. You have mentioned that animals are from the angelic realm. What does that mean? I work with horses and believe they are much more advanced spiritually than humans, but I don't have the words to explain it. Sure, we talked about this all the time on this channel. All animals come from the angelic realm. They're not angels, but they do come down with what's called unconditional love that humanity or Homo sapiens sapiens don't. Homo sapiens sapiens, which is the current incarnation of humanity, they don't come down here with unconditional love. Animals do. And all animals are down here to teach us lessons, very important lessons. That's why they're in our lives. So that's primarily when we talk about the angelic realm. That's what that all means. And that's why a lot of people connect with animals. Animals can also be the vehicles for communicating with our loved ones, believe it or not, because all animals can see the other side spiritually very well. So animals are a wonderful contribution and an addition to life here on Earth. 59. By the way, my team's reminding me animals exist throughout the whole universe. So, not just on Earth here. 59. Greetings, Sterling and team. Here is my question. A self-replicating mRNA COVID vaccine has been approved for use in Japan. Will this technology be approved in Europe and the US? Will it prove to be clinically effective, safe, and cost effective? This technology, yeah. So the question is all about self-replicating mRNA COVID vaccines. Um, so this has been these have been around for quite a while, actually, many years, but weren't adopted in the U.S., for example. They're able to maintain a level of strength, what I'm being told here. So what's going to Japan will be approved in Europe and the U.S. here over the next 1 to 2 years, 12 to 24 months. But this type of self-replicating vaccine that maintains its strength, basically, it doesn't adapt to mutating COVID variants, but it maintains strength of like the variant that it's targeted at. And so it looks like, yeah, US and Europe, parts of Europe is a question, right? Will in fact adopt this technology. It's coming very soon, 12, 24 months here, and it will be shown to be effective in that particular instance. 58. By the way, I'm not a doctor. Always have to say that for legal reasons. Hi, Sterling. On a previous show, you mentioned that this is the fourth attempt at civilization. What did you mean by this? Why the need for multiple attempts? Well, this is the way of the universe, set up by the one source, the one force, part of an evolutionary process. Humanity or Homo sapiens have been destroyed three different times. This is the fourth incarnation of humanity overall. This is the one that will succeed. So, not to worry, but this is the fourth try. And it's part of an evolutionary process set up by the one force, the one source. 57. During the November election and certification process, will there be legal consequences for local, county, and state officials who refuse to certify legal votes? Will any of those officials be charged, arrested, held accountable for their actions? I do see that this is, whatever is being asked here in this question, a lot of the legal process or people will be identified in 2025. And then you're looking at probably another 5 years for it to all play out. So a long legal process to get a lot of this people identified who, let's say, didn't certify a legal election. It's going to be a long play out over a 5 year period. So they will be held accountable, but it's going to be a long, kind of arduous task. Absolutely. Okay, 56 in the countdown. Hi, Sterling and team. Will the former President Carter see his 100th birthday and vote for Harris Wall's ticket? Will he be successful? I do get he's going to see his 100th birthday, and I do get he's going to be able to vote in this presidential election for the Harris Walls ticket. I do get that. 55. Hi, Sterling. Was the Venezuelan leader's jet heading to Florida to assist 45 in any way? I don't get any direct relationship to 45 and that seizure that had more to do with an illegal purchase of an aircraft, and the government kind of pulling that back. So I don't know if they spent 12 or 18 million dollars or whatever the price was on that particular private jet, but it was like illegally generated funds, and then the plane was taken illegally out of the country. So it had more to do with the seizure of something, a transaction that was handled illegally, but not that it was here to support 45 in any way. I don't pick up that connection to 45. 54. Hello, Sterling. Will the United States ever have universal health care insurance like European countries do? And if so, when? I see there's going to be a massive expansion moving into universal health care, but it's more like a dozen years out, like 12 years out. And it's almost like a complete expansion of the Affordable Care Act. So but it's about 12 years out. We got a ways to go here. 53. Hi, Sterling and team. In light of the recent loss of the six hostages in Israel, Palestine, will there be an acceleration of change in the Israel government, including all of the right-wing cabinet? Additionally, will a link between Netanyahu, 45, and others be exposed for colluding against peace agreements? I wish I could tell you there could be immediate changes. I don't see immediate changes in the Israeli cabinet or Netanyahu. I know even a year ago we read on this, and I didn't see Netanyahu leaving. In fact, he would still be in power. at least for another year when I read on this a year ago. And so we're kind of coming up on that time frame right now. But it looks like we were talking about earlier, or maybe not, he has to achieve, yeah, some success in the Philadelphia corridor before he kind of feels like everything's all said and done. So it looks like things are going to kind of continue, and then that's all going to collectively move into a ceasefire agreement once they get the Philadelphia corridor under the control of Israel. 52. Hi, Sterling. Wisconsin has been crippled by gerrymandering since Scott Walker. Will the state legislature turn blue in November? Doesn't appear the state legislature is going to turn blue. I don't know what's going on there, but a lot of consternation around politics. It looks very messy to me in that area. So I wish I could tell you, it does not look like it's all turning blue in that area. 51. Hello, Sterling and team. About 10 years ago, my then 20-year-old son told me he was awakened at night by a brilliant light illuminating the lawn of our rural home. He peered out the window and his eyes were drawn upwards. Stunned, he saw a ship with multicolored lights morphing and performing unusual movements. The UFO hovered over our two-story home. Then, in a blink, the craft moved away faster than his eyes could process the moment. Was this a real UFO? Why was it parked over our home? Yes, I get this was a real UAP, UFO, extraterrestrial related, but just surveying the area. They're doing a lot of surveying right now of what could be trouble spots or looking at danger spots on Earth. So as a surveying, it's kind of a surveillance, if you will, but not reflective of your home, just happen to be in that area. So your son really did see it. 50. Hi, Sterling and team. Can you share with us how many lives you've had? Explain more about old souls. When you talk about reincarnations and coming back and soul counts, is that only regarding Earth counts or a combination of other soul lifetimes on other planets? I personally have encountered several thousand incarnations prior to this one. When you count incarnations, it includes everything, not just Earth, but it's everything all around solar system, the universe. And yeah, the difference between old souls, new souls is the number of incarnations, wherever it's at. And all souls were created at the same time. And souls are composed of energy. So energy cannot be created or destroyed. They're infinite in nature. So kind of covers a lot of topics there in that question. 49. Will we ever know what is buried with Ivana? Yes, by the year 2026. Something's happening in the year 2026, maybe mid-year, that's going to unveil what's there. 48. Will Dak Prescott, the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, sign an extension with the team or go forward to enter the free agency act at the end of the football season? By the way, I don't really follow sports at all, so I'll just say what I get. His name is Dak Prescott. Um, Big money negotiations going on here, but looks like he'll eventually stay. I guess Dallas Cowboys is the team he's at. So it looks like when push comes to shove, they'll try to keep him, and so the money will be there, is what I'm getting here. 47. Hello, Sterling and team. What do extraterrestrials think about fracking? Does it affect them when mining for minerals? No effect whatsoever. Fracking takes place anywhere from a mile to 2 to 3 below the surface of the Earth. Many extraterrestrial bases are many miles under the surface of the Earth. Fracking has really no effect whatsoever on what they're doing and the bases that are contained very, very deep in the Earth. 46, the National Airspace System, NAS, is understaffed. Do you see the government approving a significant pay increase, more than standard COLA, or an increase in retirement percentages in an effort to retain air traffic controllers? I see new federal funding coming in starting next year, like the year 2025, new federal funding programs to maintain current staff, increase wages, new training. So a lot going on with like new federal funding to like bolster NAS, the National Airspace System. But it's going to take overall like a 5-year cycle here to get it all back, right side up to get everything corrected. So that means training new people, compensation comes into play, cost of living increases. So it's a work in progress here. So be patient. 5 years, but sorry, next year, big federal funding coming in. 45 in the countdown. There's been channeled recently that there will be chaos, horrific occurrences, and financial institutions will collapse around mid-September and beyond, although terrible, actually contributing towards stimulating our collective spiritual growth. What can you verify, clarify, and dispute about this? I don't receive any truth in any of these assertions whatsoever. We'll see all kinds of fluctuations in the economy and fluctuations in all financial markets. It's part of what's happening here. It's almost like a ship at sea, a little bit. I always talked about a soft landing for the economy, which we're in right now. So this person's talking about horrific occurrences, finances collapse. No, my team's saying no truth in any of those assertions. No. Okay, 44 in the countdown. Hello, Sterling and team. Now that Germany's far-right party has won the election, what are the consequences for the world's democracy? Will they create a world alliance with other authoritarian countries like Russia and Hungary? Will humanity be protected from a world war? Well, yeah, I mean, no world war coming, but as predicted in many shows here, a big far right push around the world. And you're seeing that take shape in many, many countries around the world. But I don't see that leading to a world war. Yes, there'll be some alliances trying to be made with like Russia and Hungary, but it's not leading to a world war. It's going to take a good 10 years for all this to kind of stabilize and feel a little bit more normal. So that, man, this is all nested in the 2020 to 2050 3-decade reset that we're all going through right now. But this particular kind of a reset is going to take about 10 years to play out, and they'll start to feel more normal and less far right. 43. Hello, Sterling. You have said that one day we will have meat that's grown in labs instead of killing animals. Will there be something like that for dairy products instead of the inhumane cycle of impregnating, milking, and killing dairy cows and their male calves? Uh, lab-grown milk, I get, is already being done. So they've already figured out how to create milk in the laboratory, and I'm getting by the year 2030, so roughly, 5, 6 years out from where we are right now. There will be lab-developed milk that will be available that will minimize the requirements to kill animals or these horrendous practices. So I'm hearing very strongly from my team that lab-produced milk's already been created, and they're perfecting it right now, and then kind of mass availability by the year 2030. 42. Hello, Sterling. My question is in regards to Earth being a school. You often say that on the other side, we can have any sort of life we like and experience everything we experience on Earth. If that is the case, what makes being on Earth special? Why don't we just stay on the other side and do all our work there? So first off, humanity has the desire to evolve, and you only evolve when you're experiencing what's called the love and the fear effect. So on Earth, there are unique situations that occur because fear exists here on Earth. Fear doesn't exist in the other side, humanity. So fear creates things like anger, murder, jealousy, divorce. All the things you can think about that are on the fear side is where a lot of the yin and yang come from in the universe. That's where a lot of the lessons, it's like a refining fire. So there's always a need by humanity to want to elevate. That's why they keep coming back. Many people incarnate, come back. But that's why Earth is a unique school, is that combination of things happening. Also with, interacting with all the other elements on Earth, and includes a lot of extraterrestrials that people encounter here. So very unique experiences here on Earth that create lessons and then overall elevation of the soul. 41. Hello, Sterling and team. How do you know if you are following the contract that you chose before coming back to Earth? In addition, if you have experienced many tragedies in your life, does that mean you are an older soul who wants to learn about grief and strength? Yeah, first off, you never get off your life path. So remember, free will interacts with your life path in the areas of what they call speed, scale, and scope. We won't go through a lot of details right now on that, but you never get off your life path. So the way you interact with your life path has a lot to do with their free will. Now, this person's asking, how do you came off Yeah. So individuals that encounter larger degrees of trauma, has been my experience, are usually older souls. Older souls, almost on the other side, raise their hand. They say, I'm willing to experience more greater levels of trauma because not only will I work through that when I'm down here, but then I'm going to help train others, teach others before I leave. So it's a very giving, it really is a very selfless, giving way of showing love to the universe by saying, I'm willing to engage in more trauma. So, for example, let's say you have very exotic diseases. The fact that doctors could learn from that and help cure humanity. That's a very giving, selfless kind of a thing to do, very love based. But it's true, older souls do come down to experience higher levels of trauma. I see it all the time. 40, hi Sterling and team. Why is RTX, formerly known as the Raytheon Corporation, only being fined $100 million dollars after a $200 million initial fine for selling high-tech military secrets to China, Russia, and Iran? Shouldn't the penalties be far more severe given the potential threat to national security? I get this is all part of like a joint agreement. So it's almost like there's always a give and take. So something about a negotiation that was done here with the government, with RTX to say, remember, this is a negotiation, everything in life. And I have to tell you, even in the courts is always about, it's a negotiation. So here's the threat I'm going to put on you, a $200 million fine, but we reduce it to $100 million, for example, if you help us with XYZ. So it looks like RTX is going to work very collaboratively with the government in ways that they feel the government feels is going to be helpful for them long term. So it's a kid, it's really a balance here, right? Is how all this comes out. So that's what my team's saying. That's why it's probably went from $200 million to $100 million because there's a give and take going on here. 39, where is the other side? Sylvia Brown said it was just above us. I've heard it was a huge planet that makes Earth look like a speck of dust. Have you ever discussed this with your guides? Yeah, sure. I've talked about this all the time. So, the other side or heaven is not a location, it's a dimension. So it exists in the universe. And it feels very much like, say, the world we're walking around right now, but it's not a location. So it doesn't sit right over our heads. That dimension moves faster than the speed of light. And in fact, there are millions of dimensions in the universe. Heaven is one of them, but it's not right over our heads or not to one side. It exists. This is where we kind of get into quantum mechanics, the relationship of atoms to the universe and the spatial relationship of atoms and moving at the speed of light. But not location, is a dimension, but it's within the universe. So hopefully that helps. 38. There have been a lot of anomalous things in our skies recently, and I've even captured some on film. Are these actual UAP UFOs? Are we seeing them more to acclimate us for the full disclosure? Yeah, I mean, this is forecast by my team by many years, and even a year ago, say in January of 2023, when my team did all the annual predictions, they were talking about the large scale observations by many people off the west coast of the U.S., other areas of the world, Europe, Australia, seeing a lot of UAPs and UFOs. This is all part of leading up to full disclosure. So this is all normal. I will tell you as a footnote, my team in January of 2023 was saying it was going to be summer of 2023 or something, that a lot of that, the sightings would start to take place. And at that time in January, I didn't know that by end of that summer in 2023, there were congressional hearings that would take place. And the extraterrestrials I communicate with said they pulled back because the congressional hearings didn't go so well. There were a lot of pushback. So we're seeing it now in this year, summer of this year. That's all very true. It's all part of a normal process leading up to full disclosure. 37. Thank you, Sterling and team. My question is, do you have conversations or meetings with any of the ascended masters? ETs are not ascended masters, right? I guess that's a question. Are they lower in frequency? Well, I meet with a whole combination of spiritual entities, and they're accessible to everybody. It's not, I think some people come down here with maybe more developed telephones to the other side, if you will. So that's true. And, so yeah, I communicate with all sorts of spiritual entities, extraterrestrial, ascended masters, loved ones from people's families, angels and guides. All these entities are available to everybody. but it does require kind of developing your own, personal telephone, if you will. They're asking about extraterrestrials. Extraterrestrials are not ascended masters. However, there is a group I refer to as the praying mantis beings, and they are extremely highly evolved, and they come out of the angelic realm. So the praying mantis extraterrestrials are the most highly evolved of all the ETs. They're probably as close to ascended masters as you're going to get, that type of extraterrestrial. But by and large, other extraterrestrials are, say, lower in energy than from ascended masters. But they're still benevolent, right? They're benevolent. 36. Hello, Sterling and team. My dad sees a little girl ghost from the 1800s. Both my niece and nephew have seen her in full apparition. My sister and I went down to the basement to find something while I kept my video on record. I picked up a green orb multiple times swinging past us. Question is, how do I send her to the light? She seems harmless. No requirement to send her back to the light. She's already goes back and forth to the light. That's a misnomer from a lot of people saying you have to help somebody transition over. Everybody has guidance from their birth angels that they're with during their lifetime. So this little girl likes that location. Looks like she lived in that location at one time. Also attracted to some animals in that area. So I'm not sure if those are your animals or animals in the neighborhood, but she's attracted to some animals. It's interesting. But yeah, no need to send her back into the light. She's doing just fine. 35. With the timeline change, do you see any changes in Iran's government earlier than you mentioned before, which is around 9 to 10 years from now? Unfortunately, no major change in the ruling party in Iran for at least a decade. Now, 9 to 10 years here. I know this question is being asked a year ago, and my team is still saying, still got it kind of a heavy decade here to go before the ruling party in Iran really starts to change. 34. Hello, Sterling and team. Do all of your team members know each other? Are they aware of each other? Do they give you messages that are a single response from the whole group, or do individual group members step forward to respond to the questions you pose? Well, it's analogous to being in conference room meetings or even like walking through a trade show. So it kind of depends on the topic that's being discussed. If it's very unique to, let's say, quantum physics or warp drives or portals or whatnot, maybe specific extraterrestrials or guides and angels that weigh in. If they're universal truths about the one source, the one force, they might answer in a unified voice. I have the ability to see who I'm communicating with. So I can see if it's a team and a one unified voice or a single person from history that's talking. So it happens. It's like all the above. It's just analogous to the way you walk through life. You may have a conversation with one person, or may go to a trade show, talk with many people, or be in a conference room meeting, hear one person talk to many. I was almost going to say there's no rhyme or reason, but it's really the way that everything works in the universe. So if it is a unified message to everybody, it might be a unified voice, but many times I have discussions with individual entities about a particular science, a health breakthrough, world peace. It really depends on the topic, right? So it depends is the answer. 33, dear Sterling and team, will solar flares increase and damage the power grid or do any extreme harm in the future months? So, we really the biggest solar events are what they call CMEs, or coronal mass ejections. And they're happening all the time from the sun. The sun is, I think it's like a million times larger than the earth. I think like a million Earths could fit inside the sun. So it's quite large. These CME events are ongoing, but I don't see massive ones that are going to take out the Earth, take out all the overall networks. Keep in mind that CME events, they take out satellite communications all the time. They will take out some networks here on Earth, and they get restored in a few days. It's an ongoing portion of the way the Earth and the solar system work. But I know there's a lot of threats or fear being put out there that some big CME events are going to take out the planet, take out Earth, or take out major networks. There'll be some of that happening, but remember that's been ongoing since the Earth has been here. So it's an ongoing event from the sun. 32. Hello, Sterling and team. Will Lauren Boebert win in November? It appears by a small margin she's going to win in that new district that she's in. It does look that way to me. Okay, 31, the countdown. Hi, Sterling. I have a question about elections in San Francisco. Currently, there are a large number of technology and cryptocurrency-based organizations funding local elections, thereby making it very expensive, if not impossible, for certain political races by city standards. There is concern that this will erode and minimize what's left of union and worker-friendly policies, along with affordable housing. Will the city be able to hold firm, or will the technology billionaires eventually take over? So, not a full takeover, but a lot of the billionaires in the Bay Area will have a very substantial effect on large billionaire communities, if you will, being built. Big segments of the population will be affected, unfortunately. But new federal funding is going to help with the homeless problem and try to create a better balance. So this is really going to be an ongoing problem for political races in the Bay Area due to the influence of a lot of billionaires. And I do see it, around like regional living facilities. What I mean by that is new communities being built that are funded by billionaires for billionaires. There's going to be a lot of that happening, and a division, kind of a split between the haves and the have-nots still in the Bay Area. But federal funding is going to help with a lot of the homeless programs and those kind of things for underdeveloped areas of society in the Bay Area of California. It's going to be a battle for a couple of decades here. If you ask me, you get 2 decades, 20 years before that starts to really kind of achieve a better degree of balance. So it's going to be an ongoing problem, and it will affect elections in the Bay Area. 30. Much gratitude, Sterling and team. I was recently at a beloved uncle's funeral, and I heard a message from him in his own voice. Is it possible to hear the voice of the departed if you aren't a medium, or is it just my imagination? Yes, absolutely. It's always possible to hear the voice of a loved one. Doesn't matter whether you're practicing psychic or mediumship ability. Our loved ones and guides and angels have the innate ability to really communicate with you when they need to get in touch with you. Even people who are the strongest atheists or don't believe in spirituality at all, sometimes we'll hear a voice scream to them like, look out, before they might get hit by a car or something. So you can hear, and absolutely in this case, it looks like your loved one, this was your uncle's funeral. Looks like he did reach out to you in a loving way, just to communicate with you. So, yeah, it's very possible. I see this all the time with people. Now, the encouragement that I'll give you, along with everybody else, many people are reluctant to talk about these kind of things. It'll become more and more normal as time goes on. People offer up their unique experiences about what they heard. So it thereby solidifies everybody's understanding that there is another side, right? That there is a spiritual dimension that it does communicate with us. 29. Does the one source, one force have a sense of humor, or is that unique to Homo sapiens, sapiens, and ETs? So everything in the universe has a sense of humor, and that all comes from the love side. So one source, one force. All the guides and angels I communicate with have a great sense of humor. I actually hear jokes from them all the time. Even the extraterrestrials that I communicate with are very friendly sometimes, and tell some very kind of a dry sense of humor jokes. It's pretty funny. I've told some of them my wife Linda, and she's got a good laugh out of them. If you want a good reference to like some extraterrestrial jokes that I find very interesting because they correlate with a lot of the jokes I hear from my extraterrestrials, there is a YouTube site, Plutopia World. So you're welcome to go look at Plutopia World. A lot of the jokes are being told there. It's that dry, sophisticated sense of humor. It's the same thing I hear from my extraterrestrials all the time. 28. Ever since President Biden endorsed Kamala Harris on July 21st, 2024, she has run a flawless campaign, refusing to take 45's bait, selecting a popular running mate, etc. She often talks about her late mother who died in 2009. Is her mother helping Kamala from the other side? So all family members can help influence our guides and angels. I always say like tugging on their robe, so to speak, and saying, "Hey, help over here. So family members, they can definitely help direct, loving energy and helpful energy. They're still family members on the other side, but our guides and angels do all the heavy lifting. But in that sense, her mother is constantly, sending her love, compassion, and getting her angels and guides to keep, directing attention on her. So in that way, family members do help, and in this case, her mother is helping. 27. Hi, Sterling and team. From all you and others have said about our extraterrestrial helpers and the one source, one force, it shows they are indeed here to help and not hurt us. What about people who remember being abducted and had medical procedures done on them against their will? Why is this being done? Or maybe I should say, is this really being done? If they do not want us to fear them, why are they doing these things? Also, what or has caused the cattle animal mutilations around the world? And what is the purpose? So all extraterrestrial groups try to push humanity forward. There's a very small percentage of reptilians that kind of working against that purpose. They're a very small percentage, but kept in check by the other extraterrestrial groups. Yes, there are certain families that over history have agreed to work with extraterrestrial groups. So some of the abductions occur related to certain family lineage. That's true. That's a very small percentage. And a lot of the cattle mutilations are all about what they call biological harvesting, and it's actually part of the development of hybrids. So, all this is going to come out. I would tell you they're all benevolent, but remember, there's a little bit of scientific research going on here in a way to help push humanity forward. I understand it creates fear in some people. The largest degree of families are not being abducted. It's a very small percentage, but cattle mutilations are part of what they call biological harvesting. And by and large, really all extraterrestrial groups are benevolent. They want to push humanity forward. 26. Hello, Sterling and team. How can we know or tell the difference between birth angels and someone in spirit connecting with us? Are the energies different? Will one identify themselves differently than the other? So here it does take practice. It does practice to learn the difference between, let's say, a family member, angel, and guide. Birth angels are here to help save your life. They keep you on the planet. They stay with you for life. Your working guides are actually individuals that walk the planet one time, have very specific skills, could be health or helping you with jobs or leading a new company or trauma. But guides have very specific skills. Uh, in order to tell the difference between an angel, a guide, and say a family a member of your family, it does take practice. It's kind of like learning a new language, like learning Spanish or French. It does take some practice. I'm going to tell you that it's not something when you first start out that's easy to discern. But I will tell you, when you first start learning how to develop your clairaudient gift, which we're all born with a clairaudient gift to be able to hear the other side, when you ask your primary angels and guides to please step forward, usually that's who you're communicating with. You usually see a very simple protective prayer. You want to stand in supreme protective white light or whatever that is. But then ask your primary angels and guides to please step forward. They can also facilitate communications with your loved ones on the other side. All this takes practice, and obviously we're not going to be able to cover all this in the show we're doing today. But to answer the question, it does take practice to really learn the difference. 25. Dear Sterling and team, as far as ETs are concerned, are they familiar with the concept of poetry, literature, and what we call fine arts? And do humans have qualities ETs don't have that make them curious to know more about us? So, so all extraterrestrial groups have an affinity for arts, creativity, humor, love. They do. A little bit of dry sense of humor, as we were talking about before, kind of a dry sense of humor, but they do. They have appreciation for the arts and a lot of creative endeavors. Um, they don't, ETs not necessarily looking for the qualities that humans have or Homo sapiens sapien. In many areas, they've evolved far beyond that. So they don't fight over LGBTQ identity or fighting over territory necessarily. So a lot of extraterrestrial groups have evolved beyond that, but they do value the arts and creativity. 24, hi Sterling. Do you see if there may be a time where the gang members, drug cartel, and the bad ETs can be tracked, I'm referring to tracking like them in the movie The Hunger Games. Eventually, artificial intelligence is going to play a very important role in tracking everything in the universe, everything in the world, along with what I'm going to call precognitive techniques. So, if you think about the movie Minority Report with Tom Cruise, there were precog psychic beings in that movie. They're actually able to anticipate future events. So, there actually will be individuals and people with very significant precognitive ability working in conjunction with artificial intelligence that will be able to kind of curtail a lot of the violence in the world. You'll be able to see it, stop it before it happens. So, that movie Minority Report, in a way, had a lot of truthful overtones to it. And my team's saying that by the year 2044, so roughly 10 years out, you're going to start seeing a lot of this coming into play. 23, Sterling, can you please read on the Alyssa Slotkin race against Mike Rogers in Michigan? It is for a federal Senate seat due to Debbie, is it Stabenow retiring, and it is a very important race in order to retain the Senate. I don't know anything about this, but it looks like the Democrat Alyssa Slotkin, it looks like she will be declared the winner. Maybe a very tight race. Looks like she'll be declared the winner in the end. 22, hi Sterling, how accurate is the Bible? Well, there are thousands of versions interpreted by thousands of individuals. There's a large portion of humanity invested and put into the various Bibles. The interpretations are not aligned in many areas with the one source, the one force. So it's been I'm gonna call it manipulated. There's a lot of elements that came in from humanity, and still the thousands of versions and thousands of people transcribing messages. Doesn't completely accurately reflect the way the one source, the one force views the universe. Okay. 21. Good morning, Sterling and team. If we were to physically ask ETs for their assistance with physical and energetic healing, would they be willing to do so? It never hurts to ask. However, if extraterrestrials are working with you in your life path, you're actually working with them right now on health breakthroughs, science, world peace, free energy, a whole number of areas. So that means they're closely aligned with your group, your spiritual group. And so it's easy to ask them in. Never hurts to ask them in. Many times extraterrestrials, if they're working on, let's say, development of a cure for a disease, and you have that disease, they'll easily step in and try to help you with that. So yeah, it never hurts to ask, but by and large, if they're not part of your extraterrestrial, they're part of your soul life path to be working with them, normally it's not a big factor. It's really your angels and guides bringing through other higher angelic beings for healing. 20, hi Sterling and team. Will Jamaica get an earthquake soon? Will it be catastrophic like the one that destroyed Port Royal and Kingston in the days of the pirates on June 7th, 1692? I see many ongoing earthquakes in the 4 to 6 range in this area of the world, but I don't see anything catastrophic like the ones being called out here in 1692 around Port Royal or something. But a lot of ongoing earthquake activity in the 4 to 6 range in that area. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, 19 the countdown. Hello, Sterling and team. Since the last lunar eclipse, I've seen 15 UFOs. 4 were at the same time. One was V-shaped, one large red orb, one triangle, one black with red and green lights. The others were white orbs. Are they all different types of ETs? If they are, who are they? And are they trying to tell me something? Most of these triangular ships you're seeing are Palladian motherships. There's a lot of them around. Some of them are reverse engineered triangular shaped ships by large scale government contractors. I won't name them out directly. So you're seeing a number of extraterrestrial and reverse engineered ships. A lot of the orbs you're seeing, some of them are ET drones, and some of them are actually spiritual entities you're seeing. So kind of, we're going through a period right now where you're going to see a lot of this in the worldwide skies. This is all part of the complete revelation that's coming out worldwide. So that's why you're seeing a lot of that. 18. Hello, Sterling and Team, is it possible to travel spiritually with someone after they die to a point on the other side at which you must return to your physical life? Yes, this is a form of astral travel. We can all do astral travel. You can learn it. It's like learning how to fly an airplane. Literally, you can learn the skill to astral travel, disconnecting your soul from your physical body, and then you return. So yeah, you can go to a certain point, but obviously, if you were to go past a certain point when you astral travel, then you're entering what's called the near-death experience, and that you're really never allowed to do that unless that's part of your life path. But the near-death experience is you still return, right? You come back. That's why it's called near-death experience. But yeah, you can travel with individuals in an astral travel basis to a certain point. You can. 17. Hello, Sterling and team. For the last 40 years, most of the benefits of U.S. economic growth have gone to the upper class, with most people struggling to stay even or losing ground. Do you see any intervention, either terrestrial or extraterrestrial, to ensure that the economic benefits of AI are more equitably distributed? So the benefits of AI will eventually be equitably distributed. It's a technology that's going to cause a complete paradigm shift in everybody's life. So it's going to be the fundamental building block of so many things we experience: automated transportation, advances in medical science, communicating worldwide. AI is going to penetrate every area of our life, just like electricity. So it will be equitably distributed. I mean, obviously, there's an ebb and flow to every new technology as it rolls out, but eventually, everybody will have access to it, and it'll be a part of everybody's life. 16. Hello, Sterling and team. I live in a neighborhood that is experiencing a significant rise in homelessness and drug addiction. I often have conflicting feelings about it. One minute I'm angry and judgmental, the other, and I feel empathy. What do your guides think is the answer to the homelessness problem? Well, new federal programs starting off in 2025, 2026, driven by new revenues coming in the government here in the US, due to the corporate minimum 15% tax rate, 1 5. New revenues coming in. So you're going to see the new funding is going to create not just housing, but medical programs, help for different types of neurological care. The homeless problem is multifaceted, multidimensional. So sometimes when people are homeless, you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg, but there are many things going on in their life that need to be addressed. But it looks to me, what they're telling me, 2025 to 2026, a big uptick in help coming with federal funding to help starting to turn these problems around. 15. Will Liz Cheney or Adam Kinzinger have a cabinet position, the Harris Walls administration? Yes, absolutely. In fact, I see both of them having some sort of a cabinet position in the Harris Walls administration. Okay, 14, the countdown. Hi, Sterling and team. You've mentioned that we've gone through an acceleration and time frame of about 8 years, and your guides no longer see Pierre Poilievre winning the Canadian election. Does Justin Trudeau win, or does he hand over to someone else? It does not look like Trudeau wins in the next election, but it gets handed over, it gets replaced by someone that's similar in like political strategy. So somebody leading along the same lines as Trudeau, but does not look like Trudeau continues on, I guess, through the next election. 13. Hello, Sterling. Are there high profile subscriber YouTube psychics, not you specifically, capitalizing on the ascension as a cash cow by empowering fear tactics? If so, will there soon be some sort of self-governing process developed in the community to regulate and censor these 3D practices, much like all the efforts we are making to unveil, mitigate corruption in the world? Well, first off, we're going through a gradual progression. It's not an instantaneous ascension. This is all part of that 3-decade reset my team talks about all the time, year 2020 to 2050. It's a gradual ascension, thinning of the veil to the other side. Now, I can't speak for any other YouTube things going on, but I would just tell you that no matter what you experience in the world, even if it's on YouTube, if it doesn't resonate with you, move on from it. And if it doesn't resonate with the world at large, it will die off. It will go away. So respect those things that resonate with you as you communicate with your team. But I don't see massive legal processes coming in terms of regulating YouTube in these areas, if that's part of the question. But remember, it's a gradual progression, a progressive ascension that's going on here. Okay. Hopefully that helps. 12, could you explain why Netanyahu doesn't appear to want to end the war? Will the Israeli government call for new elections for Netanyahu to step down? I think we are starting to talk about this earlier in the show, but Netanyahu wants to to get the control of the Philadelphia corridor, where a lot of terrorists, bad people have been coming through for decades. But it looks like the ceasefire is coming. My team keeps telling me Qatar is being very involved behind the scenes and making this all happen. But the question is, do you want to end the war? Yeah, I mean, I feel like once Netanyahu will now, a few more months here, will still be in power. But then after all this kind of gets settled down with a ceasefire, actually my team's saying even a number of months longer as you start getting the two-state solution. So I don't see a big change in the Israeli cabinet or in Netanyahu, but I do see that ceasefire being part and parcel to the negotiations for the Philadelphia corridor. And that runs between Egypt and part of the Strip, right? The Gaza Strip. 11, I've been following the scientific studies taking place on Skinwalker Ranch in northern Utah. The ranch was previously studied by the U.S. military and now a private scientific group of engineers and astrophysicists. What is under the mountain causing these time warping anomalies and so much UFO activity surrounding this ranch? So there is an extraterrestrial ship buried under the mesa, along with a power source, a nuclear power source, and for that is placed there thousands of years ago, even millions of years ago. They're telling me because has something to do with the way the portal is managed. There's a very large portal, one of the largest on Earth, there in Skinwalker Ranch. So a lot of so it's also an extraterrestrial airport. I've talked about before, just like JFK, LAX, and Los Angeles. But what's buried there is an extraterrestrial ship and a nuclear power source. Could all be one and the same. They might have brought it at the same time. But that's what's going on there. So it's an extraterrestrial airport. That's why there's so much activity. And that's what's buried there. 10, thank you, Sterling and team. With most medicines being used today, there are endless warnings of hazardous side effects. We hear the long litany at the end of their commercials. You indicated that many forms of CRISPR gene editing technology solutions will be the medicine that humanity uses. Will there still be the abundance of negative side effects associated with CRISPR solutions, or will gene editing be a more natural adjustment? No real side effects eventually down the road here from CRISPR-based vaccines. The reason being that it actually changes the instructions like at a gene level, a cell level, and really helps the body heal itself. So a lot of medications right now are kind of like Band-Aid solutions. They don't really heal what's going on. They kind of mask the effects by and large. So CRISPR gene editing is actually going to help rearrange or identify cells that are negative on the body that are not helping with disease control. Again, not a doctor, but the CRISPR effects won't have the CRISPR drugs, vaccines won't have the same kind of negative effects. Now, it's going to take years for all this to roll out, but we've had the breakthroughs around gene editing technology. It's the building blocks, the Lego blocks for new medications, and they won't have the major side effects. This is a complete paradigm shift in the medical industry. 9, dear Sterling and team, will there be a law created under the Harris presidency that states that U.S. president or anyone in the U.S. government position cannot be a convicted criminal? I believe there already is a law that exists to this effect, but it's not being implemented for some reason. There's something going on with Congress. So I think there already is a law to this effect. It might relate to the Constitution, but it's not being put in effect. But once the Harris presidency starts off, 2025, looks like they're going to put more controls and more guidelines around this kind of a law, so that it becomes like almost immediately like campaigns can't even take off if you're a convicted criminal. I think that was the question here, right? Yeah, convicted criminal. I just want to make sure that, so if you're a convicted criminal, they'll stop even like a campaign from starting out. 8, hi Sterling and team. Will China and Russia ever go to war with each other? I don't see this as any large scale like nuclear event or nuclear war. No. But regarding China and Russia, it looks like they're kind of be friendly adversaries. So, love, hate, love, hate. But I don't see any kind of a major like nuclear war being going on here. 7, hi Sterling. Do you ever see the US going the way of Australia, where it's required for every eligible person to vote in all elections? I do. Roughly in 8 to 10 years here, it looks like that law will be on the books. So it's going to be a while, like the 2 terms of Kamala Harris presidency. But looks like maybe just outside that realm that's become a law. 6, will the Electoral College ever be abolished? Yes, within about 10 to 12 years. 5, hello, Sterling and team. Sylvia Brown, a psychic who's now in spirit, had predicted the 2020 start of the coronavirus and said it would suddenly disappear one day. Does your team foresee this to be true as well, or possibly a CRISPR-based vaccine that ultimately prevents people from catching the virus in the first place? So we're about 20 years out from a vaccine that will outsmart like COVID. So COVID's been around for thousands of years, only recently crossed over into humanity, according to my team. Not a doctor, but that's what they're telling me. It's been around for thousands of years, just crossed over into humanity. Like the vaccines being developed in Japan that we were talking about earlier in the show, they help the vaccine maintain its strength around a certain variant. But in terms of a vaccine that can outsmart an evolving variant of COVID, remember COVID, they mutate, a lot of mutations going on. As far as a vaccine that can outsmart and mutate to keep up with it, we're about 20 years out from that, and they will be using gene editing CRISPR technology to develop the vaccine. So kind of 2 different ways here of combating COVID, but that's like in direct relationship, I think, to this question involving what Sylvia Brown was talking about. That's what my team is saying. 4, hello, Sterling. I am a retired high school teacher, but I had 2 careers of equal length. As a result, the double dipping law robs me of the Social Security benefits I earned at a non-teaching job. Will the Social Security Fairness Act, HR 82, the WEP, WEP slash GPO, be passed this year? It appears there's a great deal of bipartisan support for all of this. In fact, it looks to me like they're going to get all the approvals they need by the end of next year. So maybe not this year, but I see a lot of bipartisan support here, a lot of momentum behind making this happen. And I think a lot of people get affected by this if they worked in the government, and if they get a government pension, then they're trying to take away Social Security benefit. But it looks like that's all going to be handled correctly about a year out here in the next administration. And number 3, number 2, and number 1. I usually take notes on number 2 and number 1. My wife asked me before she gave me the questions to take notes on question 3. So I did that before the show because she thought it was an important question that she wanted kind of a direct response from the guides and angels. So I'll give that to you right now. Number 3 question was, hello, Sterling. Can you tell us what we could do vibrationally to help Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and Joe Biden before, during, and after the election? Here's what my team said. Send them love and light on a daily basis and ask the universe to bring in all of the best helpful angels and guides to light their way and allow the truth to come out worldwide. Very important. And number 2 and number 1, again, I take messages and notes before I start here, so I'll read those back to you. Number 2, what do you see coming up for next week? Obviously, presidential debate on September 10th, very, very important. I do see both 45 and Harris will attend. It looks like Harris will be the clear winner, Kamala Harris. Also, new legislation proposed for gun background checks and red flag laws. For some reason, this is really going to get accelerated by by the school shooting that we just witnessed, earlier this week. Also, more unique sightings of UAPs and UFOs on the East Coast, Midwest, and also Australia and parts of Europe. So there's a continuation of a lot of the massive UAP, UFO sightings that my team was talking about. kind of prepare humanity for what's coming here. Full disclosure. New Putin losses within Russia. So some major events going to happen here with new losses for Putin inside Russia being driven by Ukraine. New legislation for healthcare drug costs being proposed. So new forms of drug caps on drug costs coming up this week. New ethics guidelines proposed for Supreme Court with stiff consequences. Some sort of new legislation or discussion here for that. I do not see anything coming up in regards to the Tim Walz COVID funding allegations that just came out this week. So I think that just came out. Tim Walz is being subpoenaed, I guess, for misuse of COVID funds that were supposed to go towards, I guess, feeding children in schools or something. Looks like that will all go end up going nowhere. So he'll be vindicated. And number one in the countdown. Do you have anything your guides want to share? Keep believing you are living your most perfect life. And very soon, in fact, you will see that you are in all aspects. So on that note, that concludes the show being recorded here on Saturday, September 7th, posted live on Sunday, September 8th. And again, if you need to reach me, go to sterlingpsychicmedium.com, look for the Book a Session tab. Welcome to join our Platinum membership as well. The join button's on the front page of YouTube, as well as our website, sterlingpsychicmedium.com. I'm going to wish everybody a lot of goodwill and tremendous love to you and your families. Take care, and I look forward to seeing all of you again very soon.